Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 8th live show. We continue to make incremental improvements every week, and so I'm happy to welcome. You can't see him with us, but he is behind the gears and the machinery and the tubes that make the internet work. You may know this part of the Schmodown community. Mara and I know him as our mover. Ben Goddard has joined our team here. He's engineering the show. He's helping us get things in order. I don't have to push buttons and stuff while we're going. So he's now part of the Dan Live team. So everybody welcome Ben. We're very happy to have him. He's a good friend of ours. We're happy we could bring him into the show. So you've got Ben pushing the buttons. You got me. As of last week, we also have the Mara cam. Now I'm going to be very careful when I speak because we have an echo situation. Some people pointed it out last week. We're trying to work it out. So, but I'm going to say hi to Mara, and then I'm going to let Mara talk so that Ben can mute me so that you can hear her and not both of us at the same time. Mara, hi, honey.
Hello. It's safe to talk now, yes? Okay, great. Hi, everybody.
Mara will be here. She will be taking your questions. So not only are we going to be doing the news and talk about the Shang-Chi trailer that came out yesterday, we're going to talk about Loki. We're going to talk about Michael Myers, not Mike Myers, unless something breaks. Who knows? That would be a real coincidence. We're going to be talking about a breakfast toaster pastry movie adaptation. A lot of stuff going on, but this is also your show. So you got that information right down there on the bottom. Ben's helping us whip up some really fancy new graphics that I think we're going to have up next week. But if you want to get your question asked, we will interrupt after every news story. If you want to donate $15 or more and get your question asked right there in the middle of the show, you can do it that way. Or we will have a big section at the end of the show for anybody who wants a question. So you can have less than $15, but more than $5. You can get your question thrown into the pool, and we will have a big question time at the end of the episode. A lot of stuff to get through today. So we'd love to have your questions, but we also have a lot to cover. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is there were a couple of new trailers. I love how it really is. It seems to be going like movie releases and movie trailers. It's been like feast or famine. We had nothing for months and months. And then last night, 2 new trailers come out for 2 big new movies. The first one is not the next Marvel movie. That one's coming out in a couple of weeks, but we're already now looking at the next one down the line, which opens on Labor Day weekend, which is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We got the second. I hate how they think. Some people say, well, it's the first trailer because the first one was the first teaser. To me, it's the second trailer. I'm going to call it the second trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We have Simu Liu, who we knew was playing Shang-Chi. We got to look at him. We got a better look at Tony Leung, who's playing Shang-Chi's dad. Shocker here, we have a Marvel superhero with daddy issues. That's never happened before. That's really a comic book trope, I think, more than it is an MCU trope. But we definitely have some parent issues going on here. Michelle Yeoh doing some awesome teaching and it looks like magic and fighting. We had a bit of a reveal, and I know that some people read all the spoiler stuff. So they're into all of the script leaks and wiki leaks and everything else that comes out of Marvel. But I did not know, and spoiler if you haven't seen this trailer, I did not know that Abomination would be in this film, but it appears that they are bringing Abomination, who was last seen in The Incredible Hulk along with Edward Norton, back to the MCU. I don't think they're bringing Edward Norton back, but it does look like Abomination is coming back in some kind of a ultimate fighting setup thing, which I've always said I think The Incredible Hulk is an underrated MCU movie. I think it is. Mara, you are the inner geekdom specialist between the two of us. Do you agree? Do you think Incredible Hulk is underrated, or am I crazy?
I mean, you're definitely crazy, but I think it's not as bad as people think. I know that this is something I'm not shy about. My least favorite MCU movie is Captain Marvel. I would rather watch The Incredible Hulk 20 times before I'd rather watch Captain Marvel one more time.
I mean, there you go. They both do have green characters in them, so they have something in common. I think I'm just a Hulk guy. I'm a not Hulk Hogan guy. I was never that really into Hulk Hogan, but I was definitely into the Incredible Hulk. So I'm just kind of a sucker for Hulk stuff and the kind of winks they gave to the Bill Bixby TV show in that one. I don't know. I don't mind Incredible Hulk. So we already had Thunderbolt Ross come back. We now have Abomination apparently coming back in some capacity. I think it's probably going to be a, short scene, perhaps setting up. I mean, I think they've already set him up to be in certain things later going on down the line. So we'll see what's going on there. But that was something that I didn't know. kind of like when Hulk fights Thor in Thor Ragnarok. I kind of would have liked for that to have just been a reveal in the movie itself. That's why I tend to avoid trailers when I can at this point, because they, even if it's not a crucial plot detail, they give away things that I would have preferred to have seen in a movie. But, I also do a show now that's about the news, and movie trailers are part of the news. So I had a brief respite from movie trailer coverage. And honestly, if it's a movie trailer I really don't want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about it. But Shang-Chi, obviously, I did want to talk about because it's the next big Marvel movie. You have Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed this movie. He also directed Short Term 12 and Just Mercy. This is a fun Schmodown thing. We talk about, I bump the camera every week. Do a camera bump count, somebody. When we do the dungeon, Mara and I are in the dungeon. We have a wonderful manager, Kaiser. We have one of our teammates, Ben Bateman. Big Schmodown match later tonight. Check your local listings. He is playing big time Ethan Irwin for the chance to play me for that championship belt that's over there sitting on our other set. So we, all of us together in the dungeon, we have big study sessions. And the director of this movie, Destin Daniel Cretton, is somebody who Kaiser, I think, has devoted at least, I would say, 3 hours of his life to getting me to memorize the name Destin Daniel Cretton. He's like, you got to know it, bro. You got to know who this director is, bro. And so I think I'm finally getting there, but it's been a long journey. Destin Daniel Cretton will be directing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It's on because it opens on Labor Day weekend. It's on my list of the 10 highest grossing summer movies, my predictions list, because Labor Day is technically the end of the summer movie season. And so for my money, I think that this counts as the last movie of the summer. Some people would disagree. But yeah, I think it looks cool. It looks like a cool action movie. It kind of like Black Widow, honestly, to me, looks like a cool action movie. I think it's really what is there in between the previs. That's what a lot of these Marvel movies are for me at this point. It's what's in between all of the big sequences. Not just the big sequences in and of themselves, because you've done so many variations on everything now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I like the style of the movie. It looks like the fight dynamics are pretty cool. But if that's all the movie has to offer, at this point, I think it needs a little bit more. But this is also a character I really don't know. I know almost nothing about Shang-Chi. Obviously, you're tying in somehow to the Mandarin and the Ten Rings from Iron Man, so you're going back all the way to the beginning. But I also think this is a movie, maybe more than any other one, any of the other ones lately, that has a lot of potential surprises in store. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm not over the moon about it, but I think the trailer looks pretty cool. I like the talent involved. I like the talent in front of the camera, and we'll see what happens. Not much more to say than that. We'll see who's fighting Abomination. I see we've already gotten a few donations come in, so thank you very much. Perrin Sully says, love the channel, and I have a recommendation. You must watch Bo Burnham's new comedy special on Netflix called Inside. It's the only worthy pandemic art. It's entirely shot, edited, composed, acted by Bo in one room over 1 year, and it's just incredible. Yeah, I've heard the hype on Inside since it came out. It's been, I think, 2 or 3 weeks since it came out, and talked to several people who I trust who really, really, really liked it. It's all I can say is it's on the list. There's a bit of a break coming, I guess you could say, or a bit of a reshuffling of things coming that I could talk about soon that I think is going to allow me some time to I'm not taking a break from making stuff. It's just different things that I have been making, a little more free time. And this is one of the things that's on my list because I've heard so much about it. So I promise. KG donated. Thank you, KG. I've had some health issues recently, and I just wanted to say thank you for your all my movies of Terminator 2 and The Rock. I was in the ER the day Terminator 2 came out and vegging at home yesterday for The Rock. Well, that's great, KG. Not that you were in the hospital or that you were, haven't been doing well. It's great that you enjoy the show. I wish it could have caught you on better circumstances, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you for watching those shows and watching this show. I love all my movies. I really do. It's not, and I mean this in a good way, it's not the show that I thought I would be making when I started making the show. It wasn't really until I got into making it every week that I understood the kind of show that I want to produce, which has turned out to be a much more labor-intensive show than I'd intended, honestly. But I love the finished product, and I am going to keep making them because I just love doing that research and the deep dives. It's something that I enjoy because I learned something, like the Mission Impossible Morse code thing that I learned when I was doing that show, which apparently some people knew. To recap briefly, if you haven't seen all my movies about Mission Impossible, they're talking about the original Mission Impossible theme. Lalo Schifrin was writing the music, and he based it off of Morse code, because the Morse code for M is dash dash, and the Morse code for I is dot dot. And so the theme became, dash dash dot dot dash dash dot dot. A lot of people apparently knew that, because when I first read that, I'm like, wait, does everyone know this? And I did a search, and I found out that apparently a lot of people did, but I didn't know it, and it blew my mind. Mara, did you know that? I didn't know that.
It's really funny that you say that, because the minute that you asked me, you said, hey, by the way, you know Morse code, right? You're in the Navy. And he's like, what's the Morse code for MI? And the second he asked me, I about lost my mind, because I thought, did we just figure this out? This is amazing. And I even have this really neat wall hanging like tapestry thing that's got the Morse code and the NATO phonetic alphabet on it. And I thought, oh God, we're so dumb that we didn't know this.
I had no idea. I really had no idea. It's those things. So I'm glad that you enjoyed the show. I'm going to keep making it. And I want to get into even deeper dives, if that's possible. Hey, this is, we were just talking about Incredible Hulk. One of my favorite commenters, Stretchy Hulk. Thank you as always, Stretchy Hulk, says, was wondering if that was Abomination. It does seem like Incredible Hulk is kind of forgotten due to Ed Norton being replaced, and it was the MCU still getting on its feet. I hope Ross is there. Happy Friday. Yeah, I mean, anytime William Hurt shows up in a movie, I'm all for it. I mean, if it's not Abomination, it's got to be Abomination. They even apparently they're tweaking the ears and stuff. If it's not Abomination, then that's a real bait and switch. That's a real what was his name? Something Boner, the guy that Evan Peters was playing when he was Quicksilver. That's a real Boner situation if that's not Abomination, because it's very heavily implied that is Abomination. But yeah, anything that continues to canonize the original Incredible Hulk movie. Maybe it's just me, but I'm all for it. I think if Mark Ruffalo was in it, that movie would be regarded very differently. So thank you, everybody that has donated so far. Let's keep talking about the other trailer that came out yesterday, which was a trailer for Halloween Kills, which is the 14th and also the second Halloween movie now. I think we're on our fourth time of decanonizing and recanonizing and changing the storyline and everything. So now Halloween Kills is, I think, the third Halloween 2 or the fourth Halloween 2. But technically the last Halloween that was done, which is also called Halloween, was technically also Halloween 2, because so this would be Halloween 3, but also it's Halloween 2, but only this it's so freaking confusing. This franchise is such a mess. And the original Halloween is my favorite horror movie of all time. But anyway, I was a lot lower on the last Halloween that came out, the one where Jamie Lee Curtis came back, the David Gordon Green one, because I felt like it was so hyped up as this is the final showdown between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. We are getting rid of all this junk from the last 30 years because this is the one. And then you get into the movie and you realize that no, they're just starting it over again. They're H2Oing us here. And now and that's what we're doing. So the last Halloween was not the end of Michael Myers. We're just continuing this story on. Maybe at the end of this, we'll have a great horror trilogy and my annoyance will be temporary. But for me, it seems like they've now, for the second or third time, hyped up this whole rebooting of the timeline, only to just use it as an excuse to milk a few more sequels out of, let's be honest, without all of this hijinks, would be a dead franchise. It would have been a dead franchise a long time ago with Paul Rudd back in the 90s. Paul Rudd would have outlived not only all of humanity, which he will, but the Halloween franchise by many, many decades and generations. So my excitement for this is a little tamped down. I love Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. I've loved her every time she's played Laurie Strode. I think it might just be that I love watching Jamie Lee Curtis in movies. So that's going to be fun. But they're even, they're going back to the hospital. So it's is it an homage to Halloween 2? I guess. And you've got some little winks at Halloween 3 in there. So this is kind of a meta thing with the different movies. But there's a line where she's like, Michael, it ends tonight. We know there's a third one. So you can't hype up this thing it all ends tonight, because it's at least going to go on till later in the night. Maybe it does end tonight, but that means that the third movie is also later that night, which means this trilogy of Halloween films will have basically been in real time. It looks cool. This may just be a thing of where when we get to the end of this, I'll say like, it was rough going, but once I see what they had in store for us, then I'm all about the Halloween trilogy, the new Halloween trilogy. But like right now, to me, it just seems like, well, they're just pumping out Halloween sequels again. These have a little more gloss and a little more sheen on them than the other Halloween movies, but we're just pumping out sequels again. So I'm excited to see it in the sense that I like Michael Myers and I like Jamie Lee Curtis and I like Halloween movies, and I hope this is a great one because it's been a long time since we had a really great Halloween movie, and I didn't consider personally the last one to be really great. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was great in parts, and there's other parts I'm like, it's just another Halloween movie. I don't know. Mara, you're my horror Yoda. You really, my horror knowledge is pretty much limited to Halloween. Am I being a little too hard on it here? What do you think?
Can horror Yoda be my new Schmodown persona? Because that's like the coolest thing I've ever heard. I think that it really depends on how they execute this time, because there were a lot of interesting things in the 2018 movie, but then like New Loomis was just such a face plant. I felt like it just didn't work. And yeah, the ending just, it seems a little like a cop out, like you said, not like the movie, but just like the idiom. I have optimism, but they know how to cut a great trailer. Like that trailer looks cool, but I felt like they showed me every single really awesome kill in it. And that's part of the thing that as a horror movie buff, I really love is seeing these new, unique ways that someone has found to, within the realm of fiction, just totally mutilate another human being. And I felt like I saw probably every cool thing from the movie already, and that makes me sad.
Yeah. Hopefully they've got some surprises left in store for us. I don't know. I want it to be good. It's almost like I love, especially that original Halloween movie. I don't want to be hurt again. I don't want to let this new Halloween franchise in my heart because I don't want it to just hurt me again. So maybe these movies will woo me. Perhaps I will be wooed by this new addition to the Halloween lore, and then I can fall in love all over again. But I've been hurt. I've been hurt too many times. Halloween, you've treated my heart like it was a piece of trash, and you're gonna have to win me over. You're gonna have to wine and dine me, take me out for a nice dinner, all that stuff before I'm gonna let you in. Speaking of whining and dining, let's talk about Loki because I don't see any additional. Let's jump over to Loki. Loki. I talked about this week's episode on my review here on the channel. If you want to check that out, this is a spoiler, not spoiling the main plot, but spoiling a plot. Although if you're plugged into movie news at all, I'm sure you've seen this or social media or whatever. There was confirmation in this week's episode, and then through further comments from the creatives behind the show Loki, in case some thought that people might be jumping to conclusions, but it was confirmed in this week's episode of Loki that the trickster from Asgard is indeed bisexual, and this is the label again that the creators behind the show have officially attached to him, is that this version of Loki is bisexual. He was in a conversation with Sylvie, who is perhaps a female version of him, although I'm still not quite sure about that. We'll see. I think there's some revelations left to come where they talked about princes and princesses, and Loki says, hey, I've had a little bit of both. It was part of a bigger conversation in the middle of the episode. And as always, there's debate. Some saying that this is great for representation in the MCU because it treated Loki's sexuality as no big deal, just kind of part of a getting to know you type conversation. There's been some people on the other side that have said they think it feels more like continued coding and that it didn't go far enough. I think that there's always going to be that debate. But the fact that we have canonized a figure as overarching and looming over the MCU as Loki, in my personal opinion, I think is a great thing. I think that it continues to show that hopefully that Marvel is committed to bringing stories to the forefront for people of all types, and they haven't necessarily always done that. Kevin Feige says they're committed to doing more of that, and we'll see how that bears out. But either way, Loki is now officially bisexual. If you're upset by that, by what they did to the character, and this has also been brought up by many other people on the internet. But if you want to just go back to Loki's roots in mythology and in the comic books, Loki at one time turned himself into a female horse and then gave birth to a super horse named Sleipnir. So really, what the show has done is pretty mild compared to the actual canon origins of this figure, both in the comic books and in mythology. As far as we know, I mean, Loki season 2, maybe. You never know. We don't know what they've got in store for Loki going into the future. But for right now, we know that this version of Loki, listen, it's Asgard. Have you seen what's going on in Asgard? You can't really be that shocked. That whole thing looks like the back set of Caligula. I mean, everything about Asgard looks like everyone's there just to party and have a good time. This shouldn't really be shocking to anybody. But one thing that I did want to do is last week we had a really great discussion, as I bumped the camera again, a really great discussion about Batman and the acts that at one point the showrunners of Harley Quinn had a pitch that Batman could perhaps services that he could perform for Catwoman, that the executives flatly denied and said that a hero doesn't do that heroes don't do that. And so we had a great sequence last week where Mara and I spoke. It was a game called Does He or Doesn't He, where we took different heroes and we tried to decide if they would or would not perform those acts of superheroics. Well, people really love that game, and I love playing games. And so I've got a similar game here, and this news about Loki really opened the door. And so this is a game called Would He or Wouldn't He? And this is, now we're talking about the MCU, we're not talking about the comic books. We're talking about the MCU versions of each of these characters. Now that we know that Loki has, as the show said, he's enjoyed both princes and princesses, I wanted to talk to Mara and say, would he or wouldn't he? And basically, the question is, would Loki hook up with these characters in the MCU, or wouldn't Loki hook up with these characters in the MCU? So I have a list of 10. Mara does not know who I've picked, and let's have this discussion. So Ben, also, if you feel inclined and you want to just jump in here, please feel free to do so. But Mara, let's play Would He or Wouldn't He, and if you have, by the way, suggestions that you want to throw in as suggestions, chats, etc., please do. Mara, the first question that I have: would Loki or would not Loki hook up with Captain America, Steve Rogers himself? Would Loki wine and dine America's ass?
Okay. From the perspective of only Loki, because I think that Cap is a very look at everyone like everyone is a person and everyone has equal value. I do think that it would be a little bit of a bigger step for him just because of the era in which he grew up. Doesn't excuse that perspective, but just saying. I think from the Loki's perspective, I think there's definitely a curiosity there. I think that America's ass is certainly something that you might want to investigate a little bit, see what's going on there. I say he would be interested. Yes, definitely.
I'm inclined to agree. I think that for Loki it would be a challenge. I think Loki likes a good challenge, and you know what? I think that they perhaps would have more in common than you'd think. I think over a long candlelit dinner and perhaps a conversation by the fireplace, Steve could talk about being a man out of time. Loki could talk about, like, well, I'm a person. I'm a frost giant, and I'm neither person. I'm neither present nor. I think that they could have a lot in common. I don't know if Steve would go for it, but I agree. I think Loki would try, and I don't think it'd just be strategically. I think that they could find a lot more in common than you'd think. All right, so we're saying that Loki would hook up with Captain America / Steve Rogers. The next character, she has her own movie coming up, Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. Do you think Loki would hook up with Black Widow?
This one is very tough because I think we've already seen it demonstrated that Loki appreciates other people that utilize mischief. And I do think that an aspect of mischief can be the ability just to deceive someone. And Natasha is able to deceive someone with just her human presence, you know, like she conned him into giving up that the Hulk is what he was after in the Avengers. And I think that there's an appreciation for that. But I also think that perhaps too much similarity would be something that he might not actually like. I think someone else had brought up in the chat an opposites attract sort of thing. I think Loki likes to learn about new things in new places and discover new things about new people. So I would say no on this one, but not because of a lack of appeal, but just because of the sameness of it all.
Tend to agree with you. I think the attraction would be there, obviously, because it's, you know, Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. Part of her super spy thing, and perhaps we'll find out more in this movie, was probably, you know, seduction. That was one thing in her bag of tricks. But he's not going to fall prey to any of that because he's Loki. Yeah, I don't know what she has to offer him. You know, just like personality wise, I think that like he's a god. He lived on Asgard. He's lived hundreds or thousands of years. I don't really know what her story is about, you know, that one spy mission in Bulgaria or whatever. I don't really think that would particularly amuse him or entertain him. And she would never have it. She would never have it. Steve, like I said, I think Loki could get into Steve's heart. This version of Loki too, by the way. I'm not talking about the Mewling Quims version of Loki. I'm talking about this Loki that we have now in the MCU on Loki. I don't think that Natasha would have it either. So I don't think it'd be worth the trouble for him. So I say no. All right, this is a tough one. This is a difficult one. We start off easy. This is a difficult one. Groot. Oh, well, you know what? Let's go with the one that's up on stage. That's up on the screen. Agatha Harkness. A new entrant into the MCU. She is also a person of magic. Do we think that Agatha Harkness and Loki would hook up?
100% yes. Especially because she's also someone who has been able to, in her way, as a human person, like use magic to live for hundreds of years. So like there's at least, even though he's thousands of years old, there's some similarity there. You can talk about how you've seen different groups of people rise and fall and the mysteries of the cosmos and all of that goodness. But yeah, I don't know. I think because there's a darkness to her, there's an evil agenda there that he can at least empathize with from where he was emotionally and through his actions, you know, many, many years ago. I think that it's kind of one of those, like, maybe it'd be like an angry one.
I was thinking the same thing because they're both tricksters. And I think that it would be like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith situation where they're trying to like out magic each other. And so it starts off as like a rivalry, but then it ends up with like, you know, hooking up in the wreckage type thing. I think that they would start off as enemies. And they would eventually. I think they're the best match so far. Honestly, I think Loki and Agatha Harkness. It would be messy. Don't. I mean, it would be like there would just be all kinds of magic stuff thrown around everywhere. I don't even want to know. But I think that yes, I think that's a yes here for Loki and Agatha Harkness. But I think it would be you don't start off right away. There's a rivalry first. All right, let's go on to our next one. Let's throw up the one that I cleaned up. Groot. What do we think about Loki and Groot?
I want to be very, very clear here. We are talking about the Groot that we knew from Guardians of the Galaxy. We are talking about fully adult of consenting age Groot. I just want to be extremely clear about this.
I am talking about fully deep-voiced Vin Diesel, Guardians of the Galaxy 2014 Groot. Yes.
I don't know. I honestly don't know from the Groot perspective, but I kind of I think Loki would just kind of be curious as to the how of it all. I mean, the mysteries of the universe can involve mysteries of tree production. So I don't know. I say maybe.
I think that we are very curious about Groot, but I think Loki in his time on Asgard has probably seen things that are far more bizarre to our sensibilities than Groot. So I think Groot might be a little too simple for him. Loki's very loquacious, and even though Groot, you know, he says many different variations and they mean different things, but I think I think Groot is all bronze for Loki. So I'm going to say no. I think the curiosity factor would be the only thing to put me over, but I think there's stuff on Asgard that has that overwhelms Groot. So I gotta say no. I'm gonna say no on Groot. I think that's our first split. All right. Let's talk about our next one. Okay, this is a complicated situation. This is kind of a 3-for-1 situation here. Hulk. And we're not just talking about Hulk. We are talking about Hulk in his Hulk form. I also am throwing into this mix Edward Norton, Bruce Banner, and Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner. How many or none of these would Loki decide to hook up with?
I think that Edward Norton is way too much of a downer for Loki. I say that's a hard no. Plus, also his Hulk is freakish and nightmarish. Now, Ruffalo, I think, is a absolute yes. Number one, Ruffalo has everything. He's got the brains. He's got the brawn. He's got the beauty. If you're into that kind of thing. I do remember that in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you see Mark Ruffalo's back Ruffalo. And so now every time I refer to a butt crack, I call it a Mark Ruffalo. Please don't tell him that I do that because I think he'd think it's mean, but I think it's charming. But no, yeah, I'd say a hard yes on Mark Ruffalo and Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. Yes.
Hard yes on Ruffalo and Ruffle Hulk. I agree with Ed Norton. Loki would find Edward Norton far too gloomy for his taste. I think Loki and Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner are maybe the best paired. I could see them living a long and productive life together. I could see them moving to Connecticut, buying a wonderful old Tudor style house that they fix up together. I think Loki and Ruffalo Banner would be great. And so that's a big yes for me. Hulk, I mean, oh man, I don't know. I guess maybe I think that's like his dark side. I think that I'm going to say no on Norton Hulk, and then I think that Loki would love Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner so much that he would also be fine with the Hulk part with his Hulk side. So yeah.
Well, I think I want to clarify because a lot of people did point out that there was a fear of Hulk, but I think that's something that you can reconcile because again, this is a fictional universe, and I think that we saw in the first episode that he has had to reckon with the gravity of his actions and the things that he did, and I don't think that he would, as he comes to terms with himself and tries to perhaps better himself and become less of an anti-hero and more of an actual hero for us, that he would understand that behavior from the Hulk. And luckily he was not seriously injured. He appeared to be mostly just sort of stunned. So I think we could overcome that.
This one, we're in the middle of the game. Sometimes you just put a gimme in the middle of the game. So Aunt May, Marissa Tomei, Aunt May. No, forget the other two. That's probably. But let's just talk about Marissa Tomei here. Marissa Tomei, M-A-Y. I mean, yeah, probably, right?
I'm not going to speak for everyone on the internet, but wouldn't anybody? So, yes, absolutely yes. I don't think I need to really clarify that at all. Yes.
By the way, we're not. I see this as a couple of people said. We're not. This is all for fun. Like I just want to make sure we're not making light of any. This is literally we're just goofing around here. I mean, we're not trying to make any cast any aspersions about. This is just a goofy good time. So please don't take this too seriously. We're just trying to have fun here. I mean, I could literally just cover the news story, but I just like having a good time here. So please don't take this as like, well, I think that because Loki's bi, he's into some weird stuff. No, that's not what I'm saying here. I'm just trying to have a good time. So please don't take this for anything more than funny good times here on a live stream. All right. Okay. I said that I think that Mark Ruffalo Hulk might be the best match for Loki so far, but I also think that this could supplant him. I don't know. Maybe you disagree with me. They've met on Sakaar, the Grand Master played by Jeff Goldblum. What do you think? Woody or Whitney?
Well, I will once again say, at least from the perspective of looking at the Grand Master, wouldn't everybody? So part of me says yes, because I mean, if that would be someone you are interested in, I mean, it's Goldblum, duh, like 100% duh.
First of all, I think the answer "wouldn't everybody" is the correct answer in this situation, and I also think that so I see a couple people here in the comments also saying like this has probably already happened. This was probably off-screen canon that happened in Thor Ragnarok. It's very likely, very likely. Another cast member from Thor Ragnarok, perhaps in the future of the franchise, we have Valkyrie. Now, first of all, I just want to be very clear: Valkyrie, no way. She would not countenance this for 1 second. Plus, I think Valkyrie's too cool for Loki. But do you think Loki would be interested in Valkyrie?
I don't know if he would be actually interested in a serious way, but I think you had brought it up earlier. I think he would like the chase. I think he would like to try. I think he would know he wouldn't succeed, and that would almost be part of the fun. Because she would just be so 100% not interested. So I think that it would be something where it's more of the game of trying rather than the game of winning.
I think I disagree slightly only because we have a more enlightened Loki. This version of Loki is a little more enlightened. He's got a little more perspective. There's a lot more to go here on the series. But I think he's also got that royal thinking that's just like hardwired into his brain. And I don't know if he could get the idea of Valkyrie being a subject or like, a warrior, some kind of a servant of Asgard out of his brain. So I wonder if I think he might have to do a little more progression on a personal level to get out of that like royal line way of thinking. But it doesn't matter because she would shut him down immediately. There's just no way that Valkyrie would go for it. All right, two more. We have Loki doesn't deserve her, but Ramonda, who is from Black Panther, Angela Bassett, wonderful character. Again, I don't think she'd give Loki the time of day, but we were just talking about royal thinking. She's a queen. Loki's a prince. What do you think? You think he'd give it? You think he'd go for it?
I certainly think he would try. I think that she has such a grace about her. And I actually think that she, in an earth way, might remind him of Rene Russo's character, the woman who raised him as his mother. And I'm not saying that in a way that is inappropriate, mother-son relationship, but like some of the things that you love about someone you respect so much can sometimes be things that you look for in a partner or even just in a friend. I could see them having a wonderful, intimate, non-physical relationship with one another, like on an intellectual level and an emotional level, actually. Maybe not a sexual level.
I didn't think about the Freudian angle, but that's very apt. It's not even something I considered, even on Loki's side. Here's what would happen is I think that he would try. I think that she would do like a Darth Vader and kick him into whatever they use to freeze Bucky in Wakanda, and then Loki would just be captured. I think that's what would happen because I don't, much like Valkyrie, I don't think that she would care, but instead of outright dismissing him, I think that she would try to figure out how to use the situation to humanity's advantage. And however it is that they put the Winter Soldier on ice, she'd put him into carbonite is what would happen. All right, this is the final one. The internet is like, for lack of a better word, 2018, 2019, and probably still to this day, many sections of the internet were very all about this guy. I saw some very disturbing photoshopped pictures. At least I hope they were photoshopped. He is the man to whom another version of Loki lost his life, Thanos. Do we think that Loki would try to be one of Thanos's Infinity Stones? It's not even, I don't even know. I have no euphemism for this. Would he go for it? You think he'd go for it with Thanos? Keep in mind, he knows, this version of Loki knows that another version of himself dies at the hands of Thanos.
See, this is tough because I feel like he would see an angle to that, because if he can get the upper hand to a person as powerful as Thanos, then he, in his mind, in that universe, in that timeline, could possibly prevent his own demise. So I could see him perhaps leveraging, like gaining the affection. Like, I mean, if we go back to comics wise, look at what Thanos was willing to do for Death, because he was like, yeah, I'm into you. So what could he make Thanos do for him as Loki? So I think that could be something that's done in service of what he wants and his agenda, rather than either like a physical attraction or a mental, emotional attraction.
See, this is where I think that the Loki that he would come out, because this is where I think that we would get strategy. I think that he would, but again, I think in this case it would be a purely strategic match. And I think that Loki, now knowing for a fact that Thanos is capable of ruling the universe, ruling the galaxy, is going to want to stop him from that, because depending on who knows what universe he's going to end up in, or where he's going to go. But I think if he were to encounter Thanos, then he would be, instead of working for Thanos as he was in the Avengers, would be working against Thanos. So I'm seeing kind of a James Bond type thing here. He's gonna seduce Thanos, as only Loki can do, to get him out of the way, to save the galaxy. This is going to be his redemption arc. We're gonna have a turning of the tide, a switching of the roles between Loki and Thanos. So this I find is a purely strategic hookup, like a secret agent type hookup. I don't think we're getting anything genuine out of this pairing. I think we're just getting very strategic things. So those are my 10. And again, like I said, we're having fun with this. I don't want it to overwhelm the fact, and I mentioned this in my spoiler review. The most important thing here being that this is a moment of representation that is very important to a lot of people. So just to make sure that everybody knows, that is first and foremost the story. And as much fun as we want to have, and I think it was fun, we're playing goofy games. I do think that it is an important step to take a character like Loki, who has his own show, who is such a first and foremost character in the MCU, has been a fan favorite now for over a decade. And also to underscore what I said in my spoiler review, this is a great step forward. It's a great opening of the door, and there have certainly been some things that were reportedly cut out of Thor Ragnarok regarding Valkyrie. There are many more steps to be taken, so let's hope this is not a cracking of the door and then just leave that door open a crack. This is one step, and I hope that Marvel and the MCU continue to take more steps. So I like playing these games. I think they're fun. We're going to keep playing games as we go. I'm just always looking for a fun thing in the news that we could play a game about. So that was Woody or Wouldn't He? Let's go on to the next story. And this one is just it's very sad for me to read. Harrison Ford is falling apart in front of our eyes. This was, as reported by Deadline, Harrison Ford reportedly injured his shoulder while rehearsing a fight scene for Indiana Jones 5. A statement from Disney confirmed the injury and said, quote, "Production will continue while the appropriate course of treatment is evaluated, and the filming schedule will be reconfigured as needed in the coming weeks." Ford, of course, broke his leg while filming The Force Awakens. That was something that happened during a stunt. I believe the door of the Millennium Falcon fell on his leg and broke it. That required some rescheduling of how they're going to shoot the movie. But hey, Force Awakens turned out to be good. Harrison Ford is such a committed actor. I'm worried that he feels like now it's a good luck charm for him to seriously injure himself on the set of a revival of one of his older films. And we can't lose Harrison Ford. We have almost lost Harrison Ford a couple of times. We can't lose him. I don't know, Mara, your family has I know your dad used to hang out with Harrison Ford when they were doing The Fugitive a little bit. We can't lose him, right? We've got to figure out a way to preserve him biologically forever.
Oh, the man's not allowed to die, like 100%. I will do anything and everything for him, with the exception of giving a kidney, because I can't do that. But yeah, the minute I saw this, I was like, well, thank goodness at least he didn't crash another plane.
That is true. Mr. Ford, if I may, that even feels not enough formality for me. Sir Ford, Lord Ford, if you're watching, medical technology and advances are doing the very best that they can as we speak. I think that there's an entire division of the Department of Health and Human Services that is devoted to keeping you alive in perpetuity. And you certainly are doing your part, except we need you to stay out of aircraft, at least until we can construct as a society some kind of a titanium or adamantium, our version of adamantium or vibranium body, a la the Vision, for your consciousness to inhabit, because we're doing the best that we can. We just need you to try to preserve your corporeal form for just another 2 to 5 years tops, and then I think we'll crack it. I think we're getting close to cracking it. But I really wish that we had held off on Indiana Jones 5 until we figure out this permanent surrogates style technology, so that Harrison Ford can indeed live forever. And that always turns out great, right? When you do things like put consciousnesses and robot / artificial bodies. I can't think of a single time when that's gone wrong, but we need your help, Lord Ford. Help us help you, and get well soon. I even after Crystal Skull, I still am looking forward to Indiana Jones 5. I will never not look forward to a new Indiana Jones movie. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I just love, yeah. I know Mara needs a background. I'm sorry. We're working on it, Baracus. We're really working on it. Yeah.
Technically, we have the stuff. It's just sitting on the ground right over there. I was going to do it beforehand, but we had some technicians blowing in another 10 inches of insulation in our attic. So this room was where they were walking through to get to there. So I could not get in here because I had to babysit 2 little kitty cats who had to be sequestered. So that's that. I'm going to blame the technicians, even though they were amazing and they did an excellent job, but they meant that I couldn't do that. So minor improvements again for next week. So stay tuned.
We don't have any new donations at the $15 or above level. As a reminder, if you want to donate at that level, we'll stop in between stories. We'll ask your question. We have some donations for the end of the show below $15. But also, if you don't want to donate, that's fine. Watch the show, enjoy playing the games. We're going to talk about the news. Also, don't forget to please like this video, squish that like button, squish the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. We'd love to have you be part of the group here as we're putting out more movies and podcasts and reviews and everything else. We would love for you to be part of it. We haven't come up with goals yet. I don't want to be too goal oriented on the show with donations. I probably eventually will come up with something, but I want people to also just enjoy the show, not feel like I'm hitting you up for money every 5 seconds. But we'd love to have donate if you have a question that you want to ask. But let's talk about my favorite franchise. Not Wayne's World reference there for you. I was a child of the 90s. No, what is often my least favorite franchise, the Transformers franchise. There is a new movie that's going to be coming out. It is not directed by Michael Bay. It seems to be kind of in between the kind of Bumblebee thing and the Michael Bay verse. It's called Transformers Rise of the Beasts, which is set in 1994. For those of you keeping track at home, that is 13 years canonically before the Transformers landed on Earth, but that doesn't matter at this point because we've just completely revised that and retconned it. So we're going a while after Bumblebee, 1994, Rise of the Beasts. Stephen Capel Jr., who directed Creed 2, is attached as the director. Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback are among the stars of this movie. And if you didn't think that Transformers was complicated enough, then you have got a treat in store because this version of Transformers will not just have the Autobots. Optimus Prime is confirmed to return. We will also be introducing Beast Wars. So we'll be reintroducing the Beast Wars robots. But in addition to the Autobots and the Beast Wars robots, apparently we will also be meeting the Predacons and the Terracons. So we will have a minimum of 4 different robot factions in Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Amazing that everyone forgot about all of these events. Oh, yeah, Maximals, too. You're right. So Maximals, I didn't realize those were different than Beast Wars robots. So, okay, Mara, I need you to explain this to me like I'm 4. So are Maximals, Predacons, and Terracons all Beast Wars robots, or is that like a separate thing? I don't know these things.
See, it's weird, though, because I don't know how you don't remember Beast Wars. Do you not remember Beast Wars?
Keep in mind, I was not allowed to do anything Transformers when I was growing up because they had guns. So, and my mom was like super against violence, and Transformers was out when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and she didn't really, I couldn't do G.I. Joe either. She thought it was too violent. So like anything Autobot related, robot related, I am I know nothing about because I wasn't into any of that stuff. My mom felt much better about Ninja Turtles, like nunchucks and katanas and bow staffs that, things that I could actually get my hands on and hit my friends in the head with. No problem there. Sharp bladed weapons, not an issue. But guns, I'm sure you had your reasons. I know my mom watches, and mom, I'm sure you had your reasons. But guns were a no-go. So anything Transformers, I'm lost. I'm a babe in the woods.
Oh, I went away. So wait, are you asking me a question, or are you just saying?
The answer to Beast Wars? Yes. Wait. So okay. So separate from the Predacons. Okay. All right. Okay. So there will be 4 factions: the Autobots, the Maximals, the Predacons, and the Terracons, and then probably the Decepticons.
Well, the Maximals are the descendants of the Autobots, and the Predacons are descendants of the Decepticons.
I hate this movie already. They haven't even shot it, and I already hate this movie. Okay.
I mean, I can't speak to them doing exactly the same thing, like chronologically and canonically. It could be, but I don't know. I'm just saying what I know from things, from what I remember from things. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, here's what we know about Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. It's set in 1994. It will have some number of robot factions in it, and it will almost assuredly confuse and frustrate me as a film. Let's hope I'm wrong. But I see that we have one, before we go on to the next story, we have one addition from Quiz Show. What's up, Quiz Show? Thank you. Hey, Dan, great getting to catch you live for once. What's your favorite, quote, bad movie that you own? I mean, I've talked on this many times and on this channel about The Happening as one of my favorite, maybe my favorite bad movies of all time. I love it so much. Masters of the Universe, probably a very close second. I love that bad 80s horrible adaptation of the cartoon that I love so much. There's just so much about it that's magical to me because I grew up on it. Again, He-Man, a very long, sharp bladed weapon, no problem in my household. So I love Masters of the Universe. Those are the first 2 that really jump to mind. Is I love Masters of the Universe. I love The Happening. If you're going to talk about quote unquote bad movies, those are my 2 favorites. Let's talk about, speaking of movies that people have seen, it turns out that not a lot of people know where to see movies anymore. This was a story that was reported by Variety. It was talking about some surveys that have been done because now with movies, some of them are on streaming services only. Some of them are simultaneous on streaming services. Some of them are in theaters for 45 days and then on a streaming service. Some of them are just on. It's so hard to keep track of. And we now have some data that perhaps does underscore the fact that this is causing market confusion for consumers. Variety was reporting this story. They said that there was a firm called Guts and Data, which surveyed what they called 600 active moviegoers. So not the general public, 600 respondents who considered themselves to be active moviegoers. These were the numbers regarding the recent releases. Only 33% of respondents were aware that the Lionsgate action comedy, The Hitman's Wife Bodyguard, was being offered exclusively in theaters. Of those surveyed, 39% thought the film would be accessible to stream while it was also in theaters. Meanwhile, only 21% of the people surveyed knew that the Pixar movie Luca was available to Disney's Plus subscribers at an extra cost, but wasn't available in cinemas. 43% of the people replied that they thought that Luca was also playing in theaters. So nearly half of the active moviegoers thought that Luca would be available theatrically. Apparently, there's also some confusion about when these films are debuting. 23% of the people surveyed, only 23%, were aware that both were aware of the title, The Hitman's Bodyguard, and knew that it was in theaters. So of 600 active moviegoers, the number one movie last weekend, The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, only 23% of those who were surveyed knew that it was a movie and that they could go see it. And then for Luca, 1 out of 3 of the people surveyed were aware of both the property itself and the fact that it had already premiered. So of these active moviegoers, basically only 200 out of 600 knew about Luca and knew that Luca was already available. And I think this is a real challenge that we're facing in this new era of movie going. There are so many different streaming services. First of all, it's hard to know where anything is to begin with. Like a show that I've heard of or a show that I want to watch, sometimes I have to be like, wait, is that Hulu? Is that HBO Max? Do I watch it on Netflix? And they move in between streaming services. So that was already confusing. Then you take the fact that you have this thing, movies that have been available in theaters forever. You've already bisected them so that now you have Netflix movies and theatrical movies. And by Netflix, I mean streaming movies. So streaming movies, Amazon, Netflix, Disney Plus, etc. Before this whole paradigm shift had already split like this. And now you have, it's like a spider web. Some movies are available for 45 days and then they go to Paramount Plus. Some movies are available to this. And you already have a year and a half of people changing release dates, pushing release dates back. I think this is going to be the biggest barrier to reestablishing any sort of normal for consumer behavior, which is like people are already coming out of this year and a half long nightmare. And by the way, we're talking about the United States. There are plenty of places around the world that are still firmly ensconced in this year and a half long nightmare. We're very lucky here in the United States to be in a position finally where we are starting to come out of it. And people don't know, they don't even know that things exist because there's so many things now. And that's what Mara and I always talk about. There are so many things. Every day of the month, I get a new movie or TV show or whatever that people that are telling me to watch. Not just older stuff I haven't seen, but new stuff. Oh, have you seen such and such, that new series on HBO Max? No, I didn't know. Like, Mayor of Easttown sounds wonderful. I have 500 other things that are on my list to watch, and it used to be a tenth of that size or less. So you already have an overload of stuff, and now with movies going in between all these services, and some of them in theaters, some of them not, it's a question that I've asked for a long time. At what point are people just going to throw their hands up and say, I give up? Or at what point is the audience going to become so fractured that nothing generates enough to succeed? You've basically diluted the marketplace down so much that there isn't enough to go around. Some people say like, well, that's dumb. That'll never happen. I disagree. I think that there is an overload point. I think that there is a point at which you're making too much stuff. You're making so much stuff. Some people will watch anything, but not everybody can watch everything. And you need enough people to watch the stuff that you're making. It is still a business. You need enough people to watch the stuff that you're making to make these things financially viable. I think we're reaching the point now where it's become so overloaded that you're running the risk of there not being a quorum of what people are watching. And you've just now irrevocably, splintered the viewing audience. This is going to be very interesting to watch play out. I do think that not everyone's streaming service is going to survive. You can't have 15 major players. You're going to have to winnow a couple of them down. Some of them are going to be absorbed. Some of them are going to fail. It's going to happen at some point. And I think we're getting to the point here. And now it's affected movies. And this whole pandemic, I think, has opened the door for what was going to happen, but that movies are now streaming as well. And now you just have to throw it on the pile of trying to figure out what to watch and where to watch it. Those are very eye-opening numbers. The fact that, this is not the public at large. These are people that were identified as active moviegoers. And even they don't even know that certain titles are coming out or where you can watch them. This is going to be a big problem because even without everything that's going on, that has been going on for the last year and a half, you'd have to do a lot of education, consumer education. Now you have to do twice as much because you also have to educate people about your movies that are actually coming out, and you've already been re-educating them about release dates for a year and a half. It's a big mess. It's going to take a long time to sort out, and I don't envy anybody whose job it is to sort it out. One last question before we go into, one last story before we go into your questions. Maybe the movie that will reunite everyone, that will get everyone on the same page, perhaps $1 billion blockbuster, could be screened on every streaming service. Pop-Tarts the movie. This is not a joke. Jerry Seinfeld will star in, direct, and produce a movie called Unfrosted. He wrote this movie with Spike Barriston and Barry Marder. It's inspired by a joke that he did in his stand-up series or stand-up routine about Pop-Tarts. and about how the invention of the Pop-Tart blew my mind. It's a Jerry Seinfeld bit. I'm sure you can find it online. But basically, he had this joke that he did, this routine that he did about the invention of the Pop-Tart, and it tastes like the box that it came in, and has the nutrition of the box, and all this stuff about when he was a kid and Pop-Tarts. Netflix has committed to a green light and a production start next spring. Netflix is still they're closing the purse strings a little bit, but if you have, I think, more than 500,000 Twitter followers, I think you're still getting the green light over at Netflix, no matter what you want to do. Now you're not going to get a second season of it, but I think you're still getting the green light. So Jerry Seinfeld's Pop-Tart movie has gotten a green light. This is what Seinfeld said, quote, "Stuck at home watching endless and sad faces on TV, I thought this would be a good time to make something based on pure silliness. So we took my Pop-Tart stand-up bit from my last Netflix special and exploded it into a giant, crazy comedy movie." Flawless Seinfeld impression right there. So he decided to take a stand-up bit, give the folks some joy in this time of sadness, and the answer to what's ailing us is a giant, crazy comedy movie about Pop-Tarts. So I don't know how close this is going to hew to. I don't know if this is like a founder type movie about the invention of Pop-Tarts, so like a Michael Keaton, Ray Kroc type story. I don't know if this is a movie about. Do you have a second one of those? Can I get the second one? Can I have that Pop-Tart? Thank you, hon. It's a wonderful idea. It doesn't pop, and it's not tart. Sorry. So I don't.
This is cherry, not strawberry.
This is cherry. Okay. Here's the thing with Pop-Tarts. I don't know how much this is going to be true to life. I don't put them in the toaster. I think that Pop-Tarts are actually much better when they are not toasted. I prefer to eat them raw, or not raw, I guess. I prefer to. It's not like this is not raw dough, and you don't have to like actually bake this. This is flash baked in an oven somewhere that I probably don't want to know about. Mara, first of all, did you tell me you've never had a Pop-Tart that's been in a toaster before?
No, I don't believe, like, we didn't have Pop-Tarts in the house. And even though my other family kept Pop-Tarts, I scarcely ate them. I might have had them a couple times in the Navy when there was like no food, which happened sadly quite a bit. But I think that I've had maybe like a s'mores one once, and I've had cherry, and then I had the pumpkin kind that came out around the fall holidays. But yeah, no, I've never had them warm to my recollection. I enjoy them, although I'm weird. I like the outsides the best, the parts without filling. So I eat the outsides first, and then I eat the inside, and I just like grin and bear it because it's just so sugary and so sweet. But yeah, we keep them in the house. Yeah. Big fan.
I used to, some days I would grab breakfast, and what I would do is I'd grab a Pop-Tart double pouch. And because I'm trying to eat healthy, I would eat one Pop-Tart, and then I would keep it in the little caddy next to the, that pocket on your door. And then the next morning I would eat the other Pop-Tart. And I remember when I was in high school, somebody broke into my car and they took my phone, my cellular telephone, and my extra Pop-Tart for the next morning. And I don't know what I was more upset about. And they left it. Here was the biggest FU. They took my extra Pop-Tart and they left that shiny cellophane, whatever wrapper on the seat, as if to say, like Mylar. Yes, that shiny Mylar wrapper on the seat, as if to say, you know what? Screw you. I took your Pop-Tart and you throw this away. I was very not happy about that. But Jerry Seinfeld Pop-Tart movie, I don't know. They've made crazier things. Why not? I liked Seinfeld, so maybe he's onto something here. I'm not really sure. But yeah, Jerry Seinfeld is going to be making a Pop-Tart movie. It'll come out on Netflix probably at some point next year. And yeah, that's that. Jerry Seinfeld Pop-Tart movie. Congratulations. If for no other reason, perhaps that makes everything we've gone through worth it. Without it, we wouldn't have had the Jerry Seinfeld Pop-Tart movie. Let's look on the bright side, folks. Again, not serious. That was a joke. All right, let's get to your questions. That's it for the news. Let's get to your questions. Moramoth Haunt says, does he do it? The question is that... Is that a superhero? I don't know. Hang on. I have to look that up now. The question. Superhero. All right. The question is a fictional superhero, DC Comics superhero. I'm not really that familiar with this. He looks kind of like Rorschach. Looks kind of like Rorschach. He's got a big, kind of like a Rorschach type mask on. Well, I will say if the question, I can't really tell you with Loki. If we're going back to last week's show of does he or doesn't he, looking at the art that I'm seeing for this character, I would have to say no, just from a possibility standpoint, because I see no face on this character. And so I think the answer's got to be no. I'm sorry to say. I think the answer's got to be no. Hitman Hudson donated, said, been watching this movie called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I like that movie a lot. And some of these jokes did not age well. It's good so far, though. What should I watch next, Rush or The Runaways? Well, I have not seen The Runaways. I heard good things about it, but I really like Rush. So I'd have to say Rush for me, because I know that that's a good movie, and I have not seen The Runaways. Yeah. Stuart Arbery says, should be working, and yet here I am getting more fulfillment watching two people get real specific about their Pop-Tarts. Hashtag worth it. Hashtag s'mores Pop-Tarts for life. Hashtag this movie will probably feel lazy. Thank you, Stuart. I appreciate that. Avatar fan Uno donated, said, hello from the EU. Is it possible that movies like The Martian are included in the, quote, wrong Globes categories because the Hollywood foreign press are in too many parties/events in years with these anomalies, but they don't want to offend some particular hands that fed them? I mean, I think that, I think that it's really, they don't really, I'm not going to say all of them. Most of the Golden Globes folks don't really care where these movies are nominated. I think the studio probably dictated where it was. And I think the part of it is, I don't think that they really cared about pushing back against The Martian, for example, being listed as a comedy. I think they wanted Matt Damon to come to their award show. I think they wanted to be able to cut to Matt Damon sitting at a table laughing at Ricky Gervais's jokes or whoever was hosting that year. I think that was probably their most that they thought. Kind of like with The Tourist, that movie, The Tourist. I think they just wanted Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie to be there, and the quality of the movie, The Tourist, was kind of secondary. And I think that that's kind of how it is. I don't think that anyone at the Hollywood Foreign Press really lost a whole lot of sleep over what category The Martian was. And I think they were much more about, how can I meet Matt Damon and what is the most efficient way for that to happen? That's just my guess. Kaz says, how do subscription services like AMC A-List affect the overall box office? I mean, I think as far as the overall box office, a movie doesn't take in less from an AMC A-List ticket, to my understanding. I think that affects how much the AMC gets. They do it largely because while you're there, you buy concessions. And if you go more and you buy more concessions, they ultimately make more money. I think it may change how they report the money to the studio, but I don't think it changes the movie's overall gross as far as them getting less money because it was bought through A-List. I think that something like AMC A-List overall has a positive effect on the box office, because I do think it incentivizes people to go to the movies more. And if it was a weird reverse movie pass thing where the movies were, the studios were losing money when somebody used one of these subscription services, then I think it'd be one thing. But from my research, I don't think that it changes what the studios get. So I think that the subscription services actually have a net positive impact on the box office because it gets people out to the movies more. Patrick O'Malley donated a dream casting choice for Tarantino's next movie. Any character/performer. I'm going with one that will almost surely never happen. Gene Hackman cameo. Well, it would be great to see Gene Hackman back in a movie. He's retired. It appears he's going to stay retired, a la Sean Connery. Let's see. Dream casting. There's such a very narrow definition of I'm not talking about one of Tarantino's regulars. Samuel L. Jackson, by the way, I was reading, is going to get an honorary Oscar this year or next year, which is wonderful. We'll have Academy Award recipient Samuel L. Jackson, although he will not have won one. So Oscar recipient Samuel L. Jackson, obviously it's great to see in a Tarantino movie. But I think it's got to be someone like a Gene Hackman. It's like, well, I haven't seen that person in a while, or you're really rooting for that person. Like you want that person to come back. You know what? I'm going to say Dolph Lundgren. I'd love to see the role that Quentin Tarantino would write for Dolph Lundgren in one of his movies. And I think that I'm trying not to point because I know my hands get big. I'm sorry. That's the only way this camera will work and get everything is it's on a wide angle. So I know that the giant hands freak you out. I apologize. Dolph Lundgren would be my pick. I think that'd be really cool. A skewed one says, just waking up and getting ready for work. I look forward to watching this when I get back home from the lab. Thanks to you and Mara for all you do here and in the Schmodown. Thank you, a skewed one, for watching and donating. And you work in a lab, which is awesome. If you work in a Pop-Tart lab, let me know how it's made because I've always wondered about that. Andrew Russell says, glad to finally catch the show live. Love hearing you and Mara just chatting, no matter the topic. Keep up the great work, you two. Well, thank you, Andrew. We'll do our best. John James says, I missed a few of your live streams, which is unfortunate, and I have to miss most of it today too, but love the content. Have a great day. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Charles Harkins says, does Joaquin Phoenix's Oscar win for Joker and billion-dollar box office tally put him in rarefied air, and can it be duplicated? So I think the question is a leading Oscar-winning performance in a billion-dollar movie. I think that puts him in fairly rarefied air. I'm going to look here and see if there were any others that seemed, because generally what you do find is that if a movie grosses $1 billion, then you don't get a lot of prestige, fair or unfair. I'm looking at the list. Titanic as a movie did not win any lead awards. It was nominated for some, but that's one that's a intersection of awards and box office. Avatar obviously nominated for Best Picture, but I'm trying to go down here and look and see anybody who might have won an award for acting in one of these movies that grossed over $1 billion. Frozen, no. Nothing for the Fast and Furious movies. Aquaman, no. Again, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King is $1 billion grosser, but did not have a performance that was won or was nominated. Looking at this list, I think that the only other one that you could find is The Dark Knight, which, of course, Heath Ledger won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for. So I think it is very rarefied air because, unless I glanced over something and I may have, but from looking at this list, I think the only two Academy Award winning performances that you're going to see in $1 billion grossing movie are both Joker, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, and also Heath Ledger for Joker. So in a way, it puts him in the most rarefied air because it's literally two guys who won Oscars for playing the same character, both in $1 billion grossing movies, both the only two Oscar-winning performances in those movies. It's a very exclusive club. D.W. Dunphy says, unless the streamers start sharing their, quote, failures, they will effectively cease to exist. They won't keep them on the platforms. No DVD, VHS to discover them on. Like I said, a golden age for lost media. I agree. I mean, we saw it with... and I know that none of these were real true classics, but Quibi. Quibi had stuff. Now it was picked up by the Roku channel, and apparently it's gotten a lot of views. I think I saw that like the Quibi originals that were bought by Roku were watched more in their first week on the Roku platform than they were for the entire lifetime of Quibi. But that's an example of a streamer that went under, and if nobody had bought all of that stuff, then it would have disappeared probably forever. Now, I'm not saying that was worthy of preserving, but for example, I was part of a failed streaming platform called Screen Junkies Plus, and I can tell you that all of that stuff that was produced for Screen Junkies Plus, a few people have saved some stuff. I've seen that some of the stuff that we did was saved by some people on hard drives, etc. I still have copies of my first show, Summer Movie Report, that I did with Sasha Pearl Raver, for example. Like I have all those shows, but like my other show, Dan's Labyrinth, is gone. And technically it exists somewhere, but nobody knows where, as far as I know, because the company Defy that ran the platform went out of business, and it was a complete mess. It was a horror show. And so as far as I know, nobody knows where most of the stuff that we produce at Screen Junkies Plus went. And it's probably gone for functionally forever. I know that there were backups uploaded to some videos to certain channels and stuff for copyright purposes. So I'm sure you could find the right person and find a mix and match of stuff that we did and maybe assemble a rough assembly. But there's stuff that is going to be gone forever. And I agree. Like when you talk about streaming platforms, they have the sole right to take away anything that they want. And so you're going to lose TV shows. You're going to lose original movies. And that's those should be preserved in some way. Some people will say that, well, the good thing about streamers is that they'll never get rid of some of this stuff, but you can't take that for granted. I like the option of owning something. And that's why I still buy physical media. And it's why I will buy physical media for the rest of my life, as long as they keep making it, because I own it. I own that stuff forever. You can't come and take it away from me. Even a digital copy you can come and take away from me, but you can't take that physical disc away from me. I will always own that, and that's why I like having it. Mara, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, I can tell you that I'm so glad we have physical media, because when Disney Plus was coming out and all the Star Wars stuff, and everyone was so excited, and then they McClunky. And it's on my digital copy now, not just Disney Plus, my digital copy that I access from like Apple or Vudu or other, streaming platforms that are supposed to be the digital copy of the movie that you have. They ruined my digital copy. It's no longer mine. It's basically theirs. So I'm so glad we have physical media. And I'm also going to go to my dad's attic next time I'm around, and I'm going to dig out the VHS copies we have of the original trilogy before the special editions, because I know we have them and I want them, and I'm never selling them. So don't ask.
I mean, we have mine over there still from mine. You want yours? No, I mean, that's the thing. Even when you quote unquote buy a movie digitally, if you go deep into that fine print that we all click through when we go to Apple, you don't own that. Like when you buy it, you own the rights to watch it at home. But again, as I understand the bylaws and the fine language, you don't own that in perpetuity. Apple can go by and say like, hey, we're revoking that right. And then you just don't have it. There's so much thorny stuff. And the sad thing is, I agree, you're going to lose some stuff along the way. And every time that you do an upgrade from different technology, there are movies that are lost that never get upgraded, movies that never made it to VHS, that never made it to DVD, that never made it to Blu-ray or streaming, etc. You're always going to lose stuff. And that's why I think that preservation is such an important part of the entertainment experience, film, television, etc. You have to preserve these things as you go, because otherwise you could be working, you're a British engineer working at a TV station in the 1960s, and you tape over this dumb kids show that nobody cares about. And 40 years later, people devote their lives to tracking down the lost episodes of Doctor Who, because it became something so important. You never know what these things are going to become in legacy. And that's preservation is such an important part of any part of entertainment. I think that you should have custodians. It's almost a covenant that you should make to preserve what's made, because that's someone's art, that's someone's life, that's someone's passion. Even if it's Transformers Rise of the Beasts, that's someone's very hard work, some digital artist's life work. It's someone's dream. And so you have to preserve it. Jeff Nicholas says, do y'all think the streaming services will eventually want to publicly release their viewership numbers as a means of boasting the way box office and critical metrics can generate the intangible word of mouth? I think they should. I think that they will eventually, because I think that contractually, and then perhaps even, all it takes is a creative to sue one of them and say, hey, you aren't sharing these metrics, and you're cutting me out of this much money, and you should be required to report this, for that to happen. I think eventually, or Nielsen is cracking this. Companies like Samba TV are already cracking this. I think if the streamers decide not to share these numbers eventually, and I mean like probably in the next year or two, somebody like a Nielsen is going to figure out how to crack it. And then they're going to basically lose the narrative, and they're going to be forced with the choice of letting someone else tell their story or self-reporting their own numbers. But when you self-report, I think you're beholden to stock to investors, et cetera. I don't think you shouldn't be able to necessarily fake those numbers. So I think we're going to see more consistent reporting. We're already seeing it delayed by about a month. I think we're going to see that improve in the next year or two. Jamie Gore says, I love the Halloween franchise, but I get your issues with it. I like the idea of the town going after Michael. Seems like something new besides when Halloween 4 did it somewhat. Yeah, I mean, that was the most interesting thing to me in that trailer, when it looked like the town of Haddonfield was going to band together and go after Michael because he's heading towards his childhood home and they don't want to relive. Like, that's great. And again, if this were just one movie, then I think I'd be a little more excited, but it's the fact that it's 2 movies and this one's either going to be another little self-contained thing that you have to restart the next time, or it's going to be a cliffhanger potentially. Again, this is a thing where I think I have to look at the trilogy. I have to see the finished trilogy. And then once that trilogy is done, maybe these qualms that I have, I can recontextualize them and enjoy them more. Don't forget to squish that like button, like, share, subscribe. We're getting some more donations now. So thank you at the $15 level and at the $5 level. So thank you for everybody that's donating, and keep them coming in because we're having a great time. Tanjiro, hey, Tanjiro donated. I get that reference. Just letting everyone know my movie is available on Funimation now. Also, season 2 is coming in October. If anyone's seen any demons, please notify your local crow. Should I do that? All right, I'm going to do that as the dubbed Tanjiro. No, I can't. I got to practice that impression. He sounds a little bit like Morty, I think.
I got to say, though, that's, I think, my favorite comment that's ever come in, even more so than former President Jimmy Carter.
President, yeah, Tanjiro. It's very kind of like, just letting everyone know that my movie's available on Funimation now. It's very emo, like it's not that far removed. Like, oh, I don't know, Rick. It's just like, it's like 3 steps away from Morty. I noticed that a couple of times watching the dub version of Demon Slayer. It's like you're 3 steps away from being a Morty, the dub of Tanjiro. Although I really thought that was a great. I know people have their sub dub thing. I liked the performance of the Tanjiro dub personally. I know I'm new to anime. I just offended somebody, but Joe Din donated, says, hi, Dan. I've been a fan for years, but became an even bigger fan after hearing your movie-going experiences as a kid. They mirror many of my experiences, though you describe them much more eloquently than I ever could. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you, Joe. That's one of the reasons that I love doing all my movies. Is it's not just about talking the movies. It's talking about the effect of those movies, our memories with those movies, how they changed our lives. And that's a big part of what I love about the show. Vin Diesel. Whoa. Vin Diesel donated, says, let's be honest. I deserved an Oscar for at least 5 of the Fast movies. I mean, did you see how I drank that Corona? Did you see how I said family? Because that's what that's all about, really. See, Vin, you know what's funny? If you told me that Vin Diesel was watching random YouTube channels and was making comments saying that he deserved Oscars for Fast and the Furious, I would 100% believe you. That is not unbelievable in any way. John Getz. Thank you, John. John Getz donated, said, just a PSA that some stuff is available physically internationally. I own the Steelbook Blu-rays of Daredevil Season 1 and 2 and Jessica Jones Season 1 on Blu-ray. I also may or may not have gotten some despecialized Star Wars DVDs at a con. Well, yeah, there's always the circuit. I love those despecialized editions. And I don't, I'm very sort of hardline on things like piracy. Things like the despecialized editions of Star Wars, I don't see that, honestly, as piracy because, number one, they are taking something and like the work that goes into those. If you haven't seen the despecialized Star Wars editions, basically there is an artist who's gone in and taken all of the available versions of the original Star Wars trilogy and reissued the Star Wars trilogy like in HD, like cleaned up, current level technology quality versions of the Star Wars trilogy, but as they were, which is something that has not existed up till now. They've only been available in standard definition and below. And so you can find them online, the despecialized editions, but I think because it's so much work and it's providing and I don't think they sell them. I don't think they're selling them. I think it's just available and they're providing a product that's not available. It doesn't exist anymore, and then it should. So I think that the despecialized editions is one of those times where I'm sure that Lucasfilm may not like them too much, but I think it's within your power as Lucasfilm, or maybe it's not because reportedly George Lucas had this as a stipulation in his sale of the company. But at one point, it was within their power to issue the original cuts of Star Wars in HD and 4K, and they have chosen or have been ordered not to, and that's the difference. Heaney 55101 says, "Hey Dan, big fan. My question is about your title card collage. Did you create it alone or have help? Does each part have significance to you? Would love to see a deep dive, even a short one, on what movies each part comes from. I know some, not all, though. There was a live show, I think it was maybe our first one or our second one, I'm not sure, where I did actually look at that title card and give what each specific movie was. So you may have to dig a little bit, but I did do that on one of my first live shows. I did not create it alone, nor did I have help. I can say that was created entirely by Robert Holtby, who is a brilliant graphics mind. He does the graphics for Honest Trailers. He's been doing it since, I think, 2014. All of the titles, the starring titles, the title treatments. One of the best graphics artists around, one of the nicest guys around. When I started my channel, I asked if he could help me with some graphic stuff, and he wouldn't let me pay him, which was very annoying. But he's wonderful. And I basically just, he said, "What did you have in mind?" And I think he may have even pitched, I had this idea of like a collage of movies that you love. So I think I literally just sent him 40 images of these are some of my favorite movies, and he created that entirely on his own. So that is all credit to the genius Robert Holtby. Awesome guy and a brilliant graphics mind. D-Train says, "Saw F9 last night. It was awesome, but I want to talk to you about the Jurassic World 3 footage I saw last night in IMAX. What did you think of it? I thought it was okay, nothing spectacular yet, but I'm still very intrigued. I pray to God that this doesn't stink." I do too. I will say the version of the movie that we saw, we went to Dallas, and it did not preview for us in IMAX, sadly. So I know that there is a exclusive IMAX preview of Jurassic World 3 before, or Dominion or whatever it's called, before Fast F9, but we did not see it. I mean, honestly, we could probably just, we have 3 movies a week on A-List. We should probably just get tickets for F9. Go do it like people did with Phantom Menace. Go see the Jurassic Park footage and leave. We could do that. Letitia Thibault says, "You've missed the best match here, Loki and Bucky." Yeah, I feel like Bucky's been shipped too much. I feel like Bucky, that would be their name, Bucky. I feel like Bucky has been shipped with Cap. He's been shipped with Falcon. I decided to give Bucky a ship break. Moramoth Haunt says, "Loki and Zemo would have so much fun." I don't know. I mean, I know Zemo's dancing around. I don't know how much fun Zemo has. I think Loki might get bored of Zemo. I think he's a sourpuss. I don't know. I don't know if Loki would have a lot of fun with Zemo. Potter Potty says, "Oh, this is one of our emoji or GIF emoji or whatever beat poetry. Somebody will send us a motion emoji, and then when Mara pastes it into our document, it basically sounds like beat poetry. So let's get ready. This is from Potter Potty. Ready? Character on the floor laughing really hard." That's just a very straightforward one. Usually it's like, brown bunny jumping on a trampoline with confetti flying out of its ears. The next one's from 1/4 Canadian. Oh, here we go. Yep. Okay. So this is what we usually get. Ready? Here's our beat poetry. Sheba Dog saying good job while raising his thumbs up. Good job. Thank you, Sheba Dog, for telling us good job. The Game Cupboard said £5. Thank you. Here's a donation to buy treats for the cats. Thank you so much. They are so spoiled, but that also means that we do buy them treats a lot. So thank you very much for that. Benjamin Burrows says, "You have endless anime suggestions, but if you have any interest in Dragon Ball Z, try Dragon Ball Z Kai, original studio redid without filler, from around 400 to around 100 eps." So, all right, that's interesting. I'll check that out. Cam on Camera says, "How excited are you guys for the new Dune? I'm worried that it won't get a part 2 because it will underperform." I'm very excited. I saw that they pushed the date back today to October 22nd, I believe, which it was on October 1st. I believe it's now moved to October 22nd. And I think that it opens now the same day as The French Dispatch, which is the Timothée Chalamet movie. And it also opens on the same day as Last Night in Soho right now. So that's a lot of things. Yeah, it was announced today. It was delayed 3 weeks to October 22nd. Warner Brothers says that it will still have a simultaneous premiere on HBO Max and on theaters. which I think is a stupid decision, but that just is what it is. I am worried that it's going to underperform and that we're not going to get a part 2, assuming that it's a good movie. I'm very excited. Anything Denis Villeneuve does, I'm very excited for. But yeah, especially with the simultaneous premiere, I'm very worried about that. King Kang donated and said, do you think Netflix needs to change their model on shows and go to a weekly release for their shows? I feel like no one talks about anything Netflix except the window they release a show, and that's it. I feel like a Disney Plus model works well. I kind of agree. I used to like the binge thing because I'm like, well, I've waited 2 years for Stranger Things. Let me watch it all at once. But I noticed that especially with the 3rd season last time, which was there's all this hype for Stranger Things, and then it came out on July 4th weekend, and people talked about it for 3 days, and then that's it. Like, no one talks about it ever anymore that much. And then when we got to Mandalorian, I remember like that was 2 straight months of like Baby Yoda, like the Baby Yoda thing. Every week there was a new big Baby Yoda thing online, and then the theories, and there's certainly a big thing with WandaVision was the theories. And so I actually am kind of back over into your camp. I think that Netflix should do some of their releases weekly because it does build hype and it gets people to come back instead of binging for 3 days. I don't like to binge it all at once. We did that with season 3 of Stranger Things, but I kind of like to split it up over a few days. Damian Barriga says, who would you want to cast to play yourself in a Dan Murrell biopic? Kid you, teenage college you, and then adult you. Oof. That's a tough one. Mara, you have a better idea on these kind of things than I do. What do you think?
I think that now, given they'd either have to wait a few years to be like fully teenage you, but I think that you could either be done by a Jaden Martell or even a post-pubescent Jacob Tremblay. But that's just also me wanting a fantastic actor, both of them, to play you. So,
yeah, Jaden Martell, I think could do it. He's a little too cool. I was not cool. I was really not cool. Like not cool, like not cool. I just mean not cool. So I almost feel like he's too cool. But Jaden Martell's got that kind of thing that I had, especially as a teenager, like kind of like awkward. He can play awkward, but also kind of smart. He can sort of fit in, but sometimes not really. Yeah, so I think Jaden Martell probably teenage me to younger me, depending on how old he is. If you're going like back to It times or Knives Out, Jaden Martell.
Someone just suggested the Tooch for older Dan, and I'm all for that.
I will gladly take Stanley Tucci. He can play me now. He will. I would be honored for Stanley Tucci to play me. I will take that casting 100%. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to say Stanley Tucci can play adult me, college me, and kid me because he's just that talented. So I'll take Stanley Tucci across the board. That's a great suggestion. Jamie Gore says, with Michael's reemergence recently, do you think we'll get other horror icons back? Would love an updated Hellraiser. I mean, I think with all of the streaming services and stuff now, yeah, eventually they're all going to come back. Eventually Freddy's going to come back, not in Jackie Earl Haley form. Eventually Jason's going to come back. I thought we had a perfectly good Jason with a delightful Derek Mears, and I still don't understand why they didn't make another one of those Friday the 13th movies, but I'm biased because Derek Mears is a national treasure. They're all eventually going to come back in some form or another. I think this is just Michael Myers' turn. Someone's going to have a great take on Hellraiser. We've got Candyman coming back this summer. So yeah, they're all going to come back eventually. Damon Riga also says, halfway through 2021, what are your favorite movies so far? Well, I haven't seen as many as I should, particularly streaming movies. I will say that In the Heights, as I said in my review, is my favorite movie of the year thus far. We just saw the Sparks Brothers, which I really love, the documentary from Edgar Wright. Those are the two that really stand out the most for me. Let me make sure that I'm not overlooking something dumb that I'm not thinking of. Not movies I watched in 2021. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Zack Snyder's Justice League. I like that movie. I liked Army of the Dead, Quiet Place Part 2. Those are all movies that I liked in just about equal measure, but I will say of the new releases for 2021 that I've seen, my two favorites thus far were In the Heights and the Sparks Brothers, and I look forward to more coming out, hopefully at the second half of the year, and also watching movies like Mitchell's versus the Machines and some other great streaming ones that I haven't watched yet. I'm looking forward to catching up with those. Trevor Madison says, just got out of my first movie back in theater since 2019 with A Quiet Place 2, and I loved it. So hyped to be back in the theater. That's one that I would put that as like subcategory B of movies that I loved. If I was probably going to name a third one, Quiet Place Part 2 would be probably one. So Trevor Madison, thank you for that, Trevor. And I'm glad that you got back to the theaters. So many people getting back to theaters for the first time in a couple years. And that nope, we've got one more. And then I think that's our last question for the day. John Getz, thank you, John, said, I know I've plugged this before, but if you ever need a good laugh, watch Ghost Stories dub. Show had already been canceled in Japan, and the English dub just completely changed characters and made it a hilarious black comedy rather than a horror mystery. I've heard Ghost Stories as a suggestion, as kind of an oddball anime suggestion. So it's so many great ones. I think somebody sent me Cowboy Bebop. One of our patrons, who I'll name check when we actually have a chance to go get it. But there's a Prime Day deal, sent me Cowboy Bebop to watch, so that's great. And it looks like we got one more before we go. Disciples of Gandalf. Wow. If I was ever going to start a cult, hun, I think I'd have to name it the Disciples of Gandalf. Let's see. Disciples of Gandalf says, "Did you hear Candace passed away?" I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I haven't been into breaking news, so I'm not sure to whom that is referring. My apologies. Let me look that up. I need to go back up at the top again. Okay. I apologize there, Disciples of Gandalf. I'm not sure to whom you're referring. So let me answer the next question and take a couple seconds to see if I can get some background on that. Moramoth Haunts again, thank you. Said recast Ash Williams since Bruce Campbell is retiring playing him. I mean, Ash Williams, how do you recast Bruce Campbell? I think if I were gonna recast, I might say Bill Hader. Maybe too overtly comedic, but I think he could pull it off. Maybe, yeah. The first thing that jumps into my mind is Bill Hader. So that's the first thing that I'm thinking of. It says Candace is a TikTok joke. Okay, listen, you can't do that to me. I don't know TikTok. I'm not going to be one of those YouTubers that sits here and pretends like I'm plugged into the culture. I'm plugged into some culture, but I certainly am not plugged into TikTok culture. So I don't know the Candace TikTok joke. So you got me. You got the old man on the air. No, sorry. Not going to pretend like I know TikTok. So the answer is no, I did not hear that Candace passed away, and that's apparently a TikTok joke. So nope, didn't do it. Wow, the questions keep coming in. All right. Let's see. We got another one from Damien. Says, what snack would you base a movie around? What snack would I base a whole movie around? I mean, Pop-Tarts is pretty compelling. Sour Patch Kids, you could do a whole series of animated kids. Here's what I do. I'm creating a whole universe here. You start with Sour Patch Kids, right? And then you add in nerds. So now you have Sour Patch Kids and nerds. And then I think you add in Swedish Fish, like a Finding Dory type thing. So you have Sour Patch Kids, nerds, Swedish Fish, all coexisting. And then you culminate into one like a Willy Wonka type, Avengers type movie. Willy Wonka would be like the Nick Fury, if you will. I don't think those are all Wonka candies, but we're in a time of mergers and acquisitions. We could do it. So yeah, I would start with Sour Patch Kids, then nerds, then Swedish Fish, and then combine them all into a CCU, a Candy Cinematic Universe. I think that's what I would do. And then we have another donation here from Juan Rodriguez. Thank you, Juan. Hello there, Daniel and Mara. I like your formality. You said in the Heights review that if there were 10 movies that were better than that, then it would be a great year for movies. What would be 5 other movies that would be better? I mean, it's tough to say right now. I think that there's a lot of movies like Dune. For my personal likes, etc. I think that, I could potentially like One Night in Soho because I'm just a huge Edgar Wright fan. Above In the Heights, it's very weird to kind of project like which movies are going to be better because I think that perhaps the Steven Spielberg West Side Story is going to be a phenomenal film. I just don't know how you can make it that great without replicating the original. Those are some of the ones that I think could be, but then what I love are the ones that you don't see coming, like a Hereditary, which is not on my radar at the beginning of the year in 2017, 2018 when it came out. I think I forget which year. I have to look that up in case I get asked at 2018, I think. I think that you have to leave yourself open, to movies coming out of nowhere that are really going to be your favorites. So I think you could look at movies like Dune and West Side Story and One Night in Soho. And I think that Ridley Scott movie, The Last Duel, might be coming out this year, that kind of with the Damon Affleck thing that's got a lot of hype behind it. But I think also it's always the sleepers that you don't see coming that make movie going a lot of fun. I think that, nope, one more. Damien Bariga. Thank you, Damien. Again, what franchise do you wish got 9 frickin' movies? Ooh, that's a good one, because we got F9, the 9th Fast and Furious movie. What franchise do I wish got 9? Because 9 movies, you don't want to run it into the ground. I would say The Nice Guys, Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling. It didn't have to be just them all the time. You can mix it up but I would just like to follow their detective story just over, make it till literally every, a Before Sunrise type thing. Every 3 years, make a new Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling detective adventure and just follow them forever. I'd be game for that. I think that'd be fun and certainly probably a lot more entertaining than the 9th Fast and Furious movie. All right. I don't see any more coming in, so I'm going to call it a day for donations and questions. And I'm also going to call it a day for the show. You guys send in so many questions. That's great. Thank you. We went even a little longer than we usually do. I appreciate that so much. Please be sure to hit that like button if you're watching now, or if you're watching later. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel here. Please be sure to share this video, and also please be sure to come back. We're trying to do these. The problem is with scheduling. I think we found the day that works for me, which is Friday, but now everybody and their mother has a show on Fridays, and Schmodown uploads on Fridays. We're trying to keep a consistent time. Right now it's 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern time. We may have to shift one way or the other to stay out of people's ways, but there's a point at which you just can't stay out of everyone's way. You just have to go head to head with somebody, but we are trying to be more consistent. Friday is going to be our live show day from now on. So at least we've locked that down. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to join us next week. We're going to be going over all the news. We're going to be taking your questions. This has been a lot of fun. It was a great show. Welcome again to Ben, who is part of our producing team. The show will keep on looking better and better and getting better and better. So thank you to Ben. Thank you to Mara. Of course, Mara, anything you want to say before we take off?
Honestly, all I was thinking about was more Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, we're going to go to the grocery store and get more Pop-Tarts. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.